May 22nd, subject matter experts were called to Vancouver. On this case here, I was asked to be part of that, being a representative with Dive Rescue International, being a search manager with Terrace Search and Rescue. Those were all factors for being part of this subject matter expert. I hate the word expert, but a group of us got together to how do we fix this problem and how we make some changes. At this meeting, we invited the Calgary Fire Department, LA County Search and Rescue Swiftwater team came to this meeting, guiders, rafters, everybody came to try to figure out how we can solve this problem and try to create a safe standard for search and rescue and the community to follow. There was inquiry was identified right off the bat from the government, being that it was a volunteer. It was postponed. So just before that it was postponed, we're sitting in the meeting. The lawyers are already starting to go because they know that there's going to be an inquiry. So everybody is trying to make sure that they cover themselves. The family is trying to protect Sheila. The government is trying to protect themselves. WorkSafe is trying to get to the bottom of it to get all the facts. We're going to talk a lot about WorkSafe and why it's so important for you in your job. Make sure you have all the information. Make sure you document everything, because when you have to answer to that WorkSafe guy, it's going to be pretty terrible. So we need to make sure that we understand that. June 28th, WorkSafe comes out with their report. They weren't going to share it with the family. The family eventually did get the report through Freedom of Information, and they weren't very happy as soon as they saw that. They did a very good investigating, which we're going to see all their pictures, but at the end of the day, they said the crews on the scene did pretty well everything correctly. The only difference was they introduced this cable. He saw nothing wrong, he saw no flaws, and right off the bat, we identified too many. So that's when I was called in on behalf of the family. October family lawyer gets confirmation for myself to be listed. Again, that's an awful word, SAR expert. For the court case or for the inquiry. Another agency person who is in the area, who teaches for another agency, he wanted to be there too, so he sent a scathing report to say how bad this other company was. So he was listed as an expert, so he went to the stand as well. And then in November 19th and the 24th, we started the inquiry in Nelson and BC. The conference call for the task force was done in January. July, there was more meetings in Vancouver to try to establish some principles and some basics. October 19th, task force recommended report, still work in progress. Up to this point in time, 2.5 years, nothing was done where she is. The government didn't even come out with a recommendation to say, don't put steel cable in your boat. Don't put loose stuff in your boat. But months before, somebody got stabbed with a knife because it fell out of the sheath, and they came out with a memo, oh, by the way, take all your knives off your PFDs or make sure that they're blunt. Someone needs 6 stitches, but they write out a huge memo in a report, someone dies, and they don't want to tell anybody anything. So there was obviously frustration. On this day, June 29th, search managers and team leader meet with the RCMP. The key role here, or the key thing here is going to be search managers. I'm going to refer that because we're going to talk about that in court. Somebody has to be in charge. Lecture this morning to talk about, you have to have a safety officer. On the fire ground, we always have a safety person. On the fire ground, we always have somebody in command, right? That's our job. That's what we do. We're good at that. But we need to make sure we do that all the time, not just on the fire ground, not on the train, or at scenes, but actually on the training ground as well. And to this day here, still after the inquest, nobody knows who was in charge that day. The courts basically walked away unsure who was in charge. 11 o'clock they arrived to the river, so they start to build a system. The company in question, they don't believe in using high tension diagonals, high lines. So they reword it, they call it tension diagonal. Tension diagonal in the rope world is used for question. Sure, dynamic ferry to suspend some sort of a platform for us to work off, whether it be a Zodiac, whether it be a person, whatever, if it's rope rescue, whether it's Swiftwater. So they use a tension diagonal on this day. They set it up, they started to search the car with an underwater camera to see if the occupant was in there. So they preferred to use a cat craft They don't like, it's quite, I was going to say granola, but that's probably not right. It's quite a healthy area in southern British Columbia. Motorboats are bad, paddles are way better. So why would you use a riverboat when you could paddle and raft, because it's way better? So they're out there, they're searching the car, they don't find any occupants, the water's starting to come up a tiny bit because it's the time of day. They switch over, they realize at that point in time, they might as well switch over now to remove the car. Their idea was they were going to use a J-hook from a tow truck with a cable hook to it. They put it all into the boat, the cat craft, started to work onto that, and that was probably it. That was about 4:30. During that time, as soon as they hooked up the car at 16:35, about 1 minute after that, there was a problem. EMBC was notified that there's been an incident. At 16:40, they were called back and said that Sheliah Sweatman was deceased and that she was in the Goat River, still there. 16:55, the team leaves the Goat River, file is closed for the day, and everybody heads back to the local town to do I'm not sure what. So at the math there, give or take 18 to 20 minutes. So you're going to see in our world, 18 to 20 minutes, that is a ton of time where we're going to give that person benefit of the doubt. We're going to talk later, we're going to talk about what do we have RIT for? What do we have backup divers? What do we have 90% divers? What do we have, safety on confined space? What about our hazmat teams? We never dress 2 people for a hazmat situation. We always have 4 people for a hazmat situation. Our RIT is no longer just standing there waiting for something to happen. Our RIT is actually walking around, doing a 360, doing a size up. They have their map. Here's the hazards, here's our exits, here's our entries. We need a ladder at this place. And then they tell command that, and then they tell the teams inside that. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And on this day, it's going to be horrifying. You're going to see. Sorry about that. So none of that was done that day, which is very frustrating, and we're going to watch that and see how that happened. 12 o'clock the next day, June 30th, they show up to the river. They use a bunch of the same ropes, the ones that weren't cut, created another tension diagonal, sent the cat craft out there. We're able to retrieve Sheliah, bring her back to shore, pass her off to the RCP in the coroner. And then at 4 o'clock approximately, they removed the car with a tow truck cable and a J-hook.